a news viewer switched to the index of current headlines. Trigger glanced over the headlines, while a few items dissolved slowly here and there and were replaced by more recent developments. Under the science heading, a great deal seemed to be going on, as usual, in connection with plasmoid experiments around the hub. She dialed in the heading, skimmed through the first item that appeared. Essentially, it was a summary of reports on hub-wide rumors that nobody could claim any worthwhile progress in determining what made the old galactic plasmoids tick. Which, so far as Trigger knew, was quite true. Other rumors, rather unpleasant ones, were that the 500 or so scientific groups to whom individual plasmoids had been issued by the Federation's University League actually had gained important information, but were keeping it to themselves. The summary plowed through a few of the learned opinions and counter-opinions most recently obtained, then boiled them down to the statement that a plasmoid might be compared to an engine which appeared to lack nothing but an energy source, or perhaps more correctly, assuming it might have an as yet unidentified energy source, a starter button. One group claimed to have virtually duplicated the plasmoid loaned to it by the Federation, producing a biochemical structure distinguishable from the old galactic model only by the fact that it had, quite predictably, fallen apart within hours. But plasmoids didn't fall apart. The specimens undergoing study had shown no signs of deterioration. A few still absorbed nourishment from time to time. Some had been observed to move slightly, but none could be induced to operate. It was all very puzzling. It was very puzzling, Trigger conceded. Back in the Manon system, when they had been discovered, the plasmoids were operating with high efficiency on the protein collecting station which the mysterious old galactics appeared to have abandoned, or forgotten about, some hundreds of centuries ago. It was only when humans entered the base and switched off its mechanical operations that the plasmoids stopped working. And then, when the switches which appeared to have kept them going were expectantly closed again, they had stayed stopped. Personally, Trigger couldn't have cared less if they never did move. It was nice that old Holati Tate had made an almost indecently vast fortune out of his first discovery rights to the things, because she was really very fond of the Commissioner when he wasn't being irritating. But in some obscure way, she found the plasmoids themselves and the idea of unlimited plastic life which they embodied rather appalling. However, she was in a minority there. Practically everybody else seemed to feel that the plasmoids were the biggest improvement since the creation of Eve. She switched the viewer presently to its local news setting and dialed in the Manon System's reference number. Keeping tab on what was going on out there had become a private little ritual of late. Occasionally, she even picked up references to Brule Inger, who functioned nowadays as Precol's official greeter and contact man in the system. He was very popular with the numerous important hub citizens who made the long run out to the Manon, some bent on getting a first-hand view of the marvels of old galactic science, and a great many more bent on getting an early stake in the development of Manon Planet, which was rapidly approaching the point where its status would shift from Precol project to Federation territory, opening it to all qualified comers. Today there was no news about Brule. Grand Commerce had opened its first business and recreation center on Manon, not 10 miles from the Precol headquarters dome where Trigger recently had been working. The subspace net, which was being installed about the old galactic base, was very nearly completed. The permanent hub population on Manon Planet had just passed the 43,000 mark. There had been, Trigger recalled a trifle nostalgically, barely 800 Precol employees, and not another human being on that world in the days before Holati Tate announced his discovery. She was just letting the viewer panel slide back into the desk when the office ComWeb gave forth with a musical ping. She switched it on. "Hi, Rak," she said cheerily. "Anything new?" The bony-faced young man looking out at her wore the lusterless black uniform of a U-League junior scientist. His expression was worried. He said, "I believe there is, Miss Farn." Rak was the group leader of the 34 junior scientists the League had installed in the project. Like all the juniors, he took his duties very seriously. "Unfortunately, it's nothing I can discuss over the communicator. Would it be possible for you to come over and meet with us during the day?" "That," Trigger stated, "was a ridiculous question, Rak. Want me over right now?" He grinned. "Thanks, Miss Farn. In 20 minutes, then. I'll get my advisory committee together and we can meet in the little conference room off the exhibition hall." Trigger nodded. "I'll be wandering around the hall. Just send a guard out to get me when you're ready." End of chapter 2.